Roses are red, violets are blue. I cannot write poetry.
And neither can I.
I was supposed to finish it! It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't rhyme then. It was supposed to be, and neither can you. Bah!
Don't worry about it.
Ugh.
Welcome, fellow nerds, to another episode of the Writ.
I'm no poet.
Where us two twits who talk about writting sometimes need to call in experts.
Yeah, I'm not
Why
a poet.
are they experts? Well, if they're better than us, and we always proclaim we are better than you, commutative property? Well, good thing our podcast isn't about math, right, Donald?
I mean, yeah, I don't even know what the commutative property is.
Let's see. If A equals B and B equals C, then A also equals C.
No, that's the transitive property.
Wow, it's a really good thing our podcast isn't about math, right, Donald?
Yeah, absolutely. God. We're idiots. You and I are both just idiots. Why are you guys listening to us? Go listen to something else.
Anyway, we've had a guest host before on this podcast, but for the first time, the Writ has exceeded those bounds to talk about something neither of us has much of a leg to stand on. Eager to find out more? You should be. And we'll be right back after our usual segments.
Right, like what we've demonstrated, what neither of us have much of a leg to stand up on is practically everything, so... but hey, you know...
Anyway, but we always talk about this, so what are we ripping off from this month?
I guess I'll go first.
Sure.
Who went first last time? I don't remember. Let me check.
So professional!
Check out the script. Check out the scripts of the previous segments. Cool, you went first last time, so I get to go first this time. Whoa! Anyways... all of our co-hosts' friends are going to listen to this. We're making such a good impression.
So professional.
Anyways, we'll deal with that later. Anyways, I've been playing the hell out of Jurassic World Evolution.
You can't play the heaven out of it?
That's not even funny. That's not even a joke. It's funny in how unfunny it is. It's like anti-humor.
So you've been playing Evolution. Okay, talk about Evolution.
I've been playing the Purgatory out of Jurassic World Evolution. The latest Jurassic Park game. It just came out this Tuesday to coincide with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom next week. It's the second Jurassic Park game to be building a functional park, like a tycoon game, like the whole point of the series. So the first one was Jurassic Park Operation Genesis, which came out in 2003. Oh, God.
Wow, talk about a delayed sequel. That's almost as bad as The Incredibles.
Well, yeah. Oh, wow. All these timely references. This podcast will never date. But yeah, no, well, let's be fair, that was a huge time in sequels between Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic World, so...
That is true.
Now Jurassic World back in full swing, and Jurassic Park back in relevance again, they can do this, and it's a really good game. I really like it. It's made by the same guys who made... It's Frontier. They made Roller Coaster Tycoon
3, yeah.
Yeah, they also made Thrillville, which you and I have fond memories of.
Yes!
They made a Zoo Tycoon port for Xbox One I never played, and they just recently made Planet Coaster, which is a game I think is really fun. It's basically the next big Roller Coaster Tycoon game. Anyways, so I like this game. It's a lot of fun. I like Tycoon games, and I like Dinosaurs, and I like Jurassic Park, so it's just meant for me. However, what I like about it specifically, as well as all that, is, like, you unlock stuff. Not everything is given to you at once. Like, it's like, you don't have all the dinosaurs yet, you don't have all the items yet. Yeah, like, at first I was like, oh, I don't really like that, but no, it makes it a reward. It makes it so addicting. Like, I'm like, I have to complete this mission to get this. Like, you unlock it not just, like, through, like, this little campaign where... Because, like, there's the 5 deaths, are what the islands are called, the 5 islands. There's Isla Nublar, Isla Sorna, and then 3 others that I'd never heard of before, but apparently they're in the books. And, you start off on one of those, Isla, it's a long-name one, some sort of Spanish-sounding one.
Well, considering it's Spanish, it'd be Isla, but okay.
Okay, well, Isla Nublar, Isla Sorna, I don't know. One is Isla Muerta, so it's clearly the same island as the cursed Aztec gold in Pirates of the Caribbean, because that was called Isla de Muerta. Just a little different.
Well, I mean, if you want to translate it, literally means the island of death. So.
Yep. So, and one of them has dinosaurs, one of them has cursed Aztec gold.
Well, sounds about both. A similar fate.
Yeah, what if there's cursed dinosaurs on there? Anyways, enough about that. Okay, so, but yeah, having those goals makes it super addictive, because, like, you have to unlock stuff, and then you get these different contractors that keep contacting you. The contractors contact you to do these little missions, and they're often very simple, but you do it, and then you get a little bit closer to this next unlock, you do another one, And it makes it a balancing act. And also they make it that there's 3 different types of contractors, and they all kind of have rivalries with one another. So if you focus too much on one contractor, then the other 2 get mad at you, and then might start like sabotaging your park,
avoiding your business,
or that as well.
Yeah.
So it makes it like you do, even if you unlock the one from one contractor, you have to do missions with the other 2 contractors to kind of balance it all out. So it's really addictive. Like, it's so fun. Like, you do have a sandbox eventually, and I have it unlocked, but the thing is, it still doesn't have everything yet. That sandbox only has everything you've unlocked up to that point. So I'm still playing the campaign and such, so...
Gotcha. That's a really intriguing way to do the reward system, that you can't even, like, get in the sandbox and play with anything new unless you've unlocked it. Now I can understand why that'd make the campaign really, really,
enticing?
Potent.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like, also, the sandbox is still a sandbox despite not having everything in it. You don't have money in it. You can change whether or not certain things happen. Like, you can have no breakouts or no bad weather systems and no diseases. All those are really annoying.
In other words, you can make it like Jurassic Park was actually intended to be. Okay.
Exactly. The greatest theme park in the history of the world, spared no expense and all that crap.
Thank you, Richard Attenborough.
May he rest in peace. Anyways.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I like that. In terms of what I'll rip off from it specifically, you're not going to believe this, David. There are dinosaurs in this game, in this mainstream game, that I, a dino nerd, have never heard of.
What?
I know! I feel like a loser! I'm so inadequate! I've got some severe...
He's having an inferiority complex about how nerdy he is.
Oh god, what is wrong with me? This is the one thing that defined me as a person. Oh god.
What about writing, Mr. Self-Published twice over?
Who cares about writing?
We're talking about a podcast of writing, come on.
My book is about dinosaurs, so it all adds up anyways. Anyways, so it has some of these dinosaurs that, what the hell is a Chungkingosaurus? It sounds Chinese. I mean, it is Chinese in the game.
That sounds very Chinese.
It's like this Chinese Stegosaurus. I'm like, what the hell is this thing? There's Gigantspinosaurus. How have I never heard of this awesome-sounding creature? How have I not been able to fit it in the books yet?
Well, I think you're running out of time.
I know. We'll get to that later, but so basically... What I gotta rip off from this game is that clearly I have to do more dinosaur research. There's still much more for me to learn. I'm still a Padawan in dino lore, so
you should call our other friend who also wants to study paleontology, because I think he'd be fun. I think he'd enjoy it too.
I'm actually seeing Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom with him next week.
Why am I not surprised? 2 dino nerds together. What else would you go do?
Well, we watched Pacific Rim Uprising last time.
Which has not a dinosaur, but, star large, very, very large creatures.
If we want to have movies about very, very large creatures, like count as dinosaurs, are we saying Jabba the Hutt counts as a dinosaur?
I'm not saying Jabba the Hutt explicitly counts as a dinosaur because he's obviously an alien.
We're saying Finding Nemo because it has a whale.
I'm not equating them. I'm just saying that you didn't have a true dinosaur movie to go see, so you went to see Pacific Rim Uprising.
We saw Thor Ragnarok together. That has
not counting the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
That has Fenrir in it. Fenrir's a big creature. Is he a dinosaur,
You guys
David?
happen to be Marvel Cinematic Universe fans besides Dino Nerds.
Before that, we saw Spider-Man Homecoming. That has a vulture. I mean, not a literal vulture.
How about you ask me what I'm going to rip off from this movie?
What are you going to rip off?
Well, for me, I'm staying close to my roots. Not like Marvel. I saw this really fun name for it, actually. Compared to Marvel, it is known only as the Distinguished Competition.
That's funny. That's a funny way to word it. At least they know their place.
Well, I mean, they are the best competitor to Marvel. But yeah. Obviously, with the live-action movies, Marvel's got a leg up. But as far as animated TV shows go, DC has got a lot of really, really good stuff in their library.
Oh yeah, of course.
One that I happened to be watching between the most recent podcast and now is Young Justice.
It's a good one.
A very good show. I really enjoyed it. I basically devoured it thanks to binge watching on Netflix.
You're welcome.
That said, there are a couple of things about Young Justice that I really, really like. The first is how they introduce a player who has dubious ties to the enemy. The audience knows that there are ties to the enemy. And then they do a traitor arc later. I'm not going to tell you who it is. You should see it for yourself.
No, I want to know. No, it's fine. Okay.
I'm not going to say who, at least on the recording. But
no, I don't really care.
the trader arc was really well done. Even I, who I tend to expect these things because kids shows are very similar in how they execute these things. I was surprised by the outcome. So that just tells you that's some really, really good writing.
Yeah, well, like that sounds like good writing. Yeah, like
it does.
I like that when like something like that you wouldn't expect to surprise you actually surprises you. So, anyways, enough of all this video game or like cartoon nonsense. Got any books?
Why, thank you for asking. I'm also reading a book by Robert Ludlum.
I was saying it as a joke! Oh no, I haven't read anything. Now I look like a fool!
I figured you were asking me a leading question. Come on. Which card are you going to play?
I want to play both the victim and the segue card anyway, so...
What a
so
pair.
Go on ahead.
What a pair.
Go over here and contemplate my life.
The meaning of life. Anyway, Robert Ludlum has a large library. I've got a couple of his books, and the one I'm reading right now, actually rereading, is called The Scorpio Illusion. And,
whoa.
Well, I mean, it's not only a really cool title, but the story itself is really, really good so far. I'm kind of hoping that I can include some like espionage type things in an appropriate setting. Maybe there's a start of my nano prompt for the year or whatnot, because most of my current works aren't really like set up for spy fare.
Right.
I do appreciate in this book he brings characters together simply by circumstance, and they, argue with each other and nitpick, but, really quickly those things almost become endearing. I mean, obviously drastic situations can do that sometimes, and these people thrown together by circumstance happen to live through an aircraft that they were riding on, literally blown up inside the hangar without them on it.
Whoa.
And, whoa. Yeah. So there was a guy who the crew knew that died in the explosion.
Oh no.
And so situations can do that to people sometimes. It's worth considering if I have the right circumstance in my own stories, whether it's the ones I have or maybe it's going to be a new one somewhere along the way, short story that, that is what naturally happens. You survive some kind of experience like that, and you can't help but be closer to the people you shared it with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. War makes good strange friends.
War makes strange bedfellows is the term you're looking for.
Yes. I mean, it's true though, and also conflict brings people together. True friends are the ones that go through something terrible together and manage to get out together in one piece because they've lived through it together and helped each other. So
true.
Sometimes when you and I feel like we're having a bit of a falling out, we should just both dump ourselves in the middle of the Serengeti.
The Serengeti.
Just I'll watch out for the lions while you somehow build a fire or something. Call desperately for help for getting us in this damn situation that we put ourselves in.
So which of us is more the Boy Scout? Who's going to build the fires, me or you? I don't know. We better bring along some friends, otherwise we die.
Which one is the fatter one, so one of us can sacrifice by feeding to the lions, while the other one makes a hasty getaway?
Well, I'll put it this way. I can tell you which of us is faster, and I can tell you which of us is lighter. Not by much, I'll admit, but...
Yeah, but you also might have more of a BMI than me, so I don't... But of course, do lions like that? I don't know. Maybe they're like a lean meat. I mean, I'm not lean by any stretch of imagination, but I'm slightly leaner than you, so I guess I have to go. Finish my book for me, David! Ah! Speaking of books that we're writing...
Sure, speaking of books, well, we at the Writ have writ.
I started writing this book. It's the fourth...
Wow, so descriptive.
Oh yeah, that's all I'm going to say about it. That's why I've written. What have you written? No, I'm just kidding. So, I've started the fourth and final Megazoic book. That's right, this is a quadrilogy, a tetralogy.
Tetralogy.
A 4-book series.
A tetralogy.
Whatever Twilight was. Sure, there's other better examples of 4 installments.
Inheritance. Is that so much better than Twilight?
Oh god, I'm in such great company. The Uncharted video games, there are 4 of those. Okay. Soon there'll be 4 Avengers movies, but that'll only last for a bit.
But that actually lasts until they decide to make a new one, so it doesn't really help your cause.
I'm going to just stick with Uncharted. All 4 of those are pretty good, and it ended on a high note, which is what I hope to do.
Wait, wasn't... Correct me if I'm wrong, if you don't count the spin-offs, wasn't Jack and Daxter only 4 games?
It was 3.
Oh, it was only 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Because the spin-off was the
count the spin-off, it's...
Got it.
There's that one that was made by High Impact a while back, the Precursor Legacy or whatever. So if you count that, it's 4. But otherwise it's 3. Also, there was that racing one, which is...
I said not counting spin-offs, though.
But it's kind of funny. Naughty Dog Games, the 4th installment of their series always has driving. There were the Crash Bandicoot games, and the fourth one was Crash Team Racing.
Yeah.
The Jak and Daxter, there were 3 of those, and the fourth one was Jak X Combat Racing. Now, there are 3 Uncharted games. The fourth one wasn't a racing game, but it was the one that introduced a Jeep into the segments of the gameplay. So you could drive around in that and do action scenes with it. So
Am I going crazy and thinking Naughty Dog also had some hand in Spyro?
No, that was Insomniac. So
Oh, that was Insomniac. Okay.
Yes.
I think I equivalent the two because of Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank's equaled status as far as many flagship characters. But
anyways, enough about that. So I'm working on the 4th Mechazoic book. This isn't a spoiler, I don't think, but this will be the first time in the series, and I guess only if this is the last one, where it'll begin with a prologue rather than just go straight to chapter 1. So why is that? Well, that's a spoiler, so you'll have to find out whenever this thing is finished. I mean, I just started, so it'll be a while before you guys get to read it. So you guys haven't read the 3rd one yet.
Yeah, you won't even hear the title until he's done with it, per the other books that he's done.
You guys haven't even read probably the other 2 yet. Guys, buy my books.
They're on Amazon.com!
Anyways, well, the 3rd book, The Hunted Ones, has begun the editing and illustrating process, so I'm aiming for that to be out by October, so we'll see what we can do.
See how it goes.
Amp up my library just a little bit more.
It's a catalog to be proud of.
A catalog that I'm the only one who appears to be reading. No, it's fine.
Not the only
Self-promoting
one.
is...
Who do you think tries going through them with you?
Okay, fine. 2 people I've read. Nah, it's fine. There's more. I've got more than that.
I can't remember how many times I've gone onto Facebook and seen somebody talk about how your writing has affected their kid or their friends or something. So don't sell yourself
I
too
don't
short.
see this. So clearly I'm wrong. All right, fine. My book sales are through the roof apparently. Okay. So.
I didn't say through the roof, but they're getting up to the 2nd story. Ba-doom.
Oh, for God's sakes! What have you writ?
I just read that awesome pun. Thank you very much for asking.
If that's your pinnacle, you should just give up now.
Come on, you can't deny it. You're laughing at that.
It was pretty good, especially at the spur of the moment. Anyways, we got a 3rd co-host waiting on us, so hurry up.
I know. I'm sorry. All right, so obviously I've talked a lot about my Power Rangers fanfic Starburst. I did handle the last episode, and then I handed it over to my co-author.
Right.
I could probably still go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I got it over to him about as soon as I was done with it. Normally I take a little bit more time, but I've been holding on to it for so long that I just had to do that. The reason why I've been holding on to it so long...
Right.
I have mentioned my work before. I had a group of visitors from the United States come to my town here, and so I had to take them all over the place, and so I didn't have time to really sit down and write, didn't really have time to sit down and do much of anything.
Yep, except watch Young Justice.
Well, I mean, that's something I do when I didn't have to wait when I was done with them for the day.
We all need our downtime.
Exactly. Aside from that, though, I've been using my linguistic skills to do a ton of translation work. When the group came here, they brought some letters from elementary school kids in the American town that is a sister city of the place I'm at. And they brought letters for the elementary school kids here. Unfortunately, the elementary school kids here don't understand English, so I had to, translate all the letters.
Nice.
Plus, there were official letters from, dignitaries and stuff going to the important people here and back and forth and whatnot. So I've been doing a ton of that recently.
Sounds like an important job, though, to be like the bilingual carrier pigeon.
Yeah, exactly. Is it quite as creative as I prefer? Not really. But given how little time I, choose to sit down and compose sprawling epics, it's definitely a product more than, not. So I can't deny that it is creative work.
Well, it's true. And again, written is a made-up word, so we can be defined as whatever we want.
Well, and it's still using it's still using my control of language. It just happens to be using two.
Exactly.
Let me tell you, for somebody who's never had this experience, word choice can be a beast. How many different ways to say the same thing? Do you translate each one of them differently, or you just try to simplify it, make everyone that's kind of similar to translate the exact same way? Is that too boring?
But if you got, elementary schoolers, then yeah, you probably should simplify it.
My essential answer boils down to your audience.
Right.
I mean, you try as much as you can to keep the spirit of the original, but, if you're writing for a bunch of elementary schoolers, you probably don't have too many various ways to say the same thing. And keep in mind that the kids that wrote these letters are a similar age, not exactly the same. Originally, we were going to have let's do one class and just start this and see what happens, right? A simple pen pal exchange, and maybe it doesn't even get a response. But instead of 35, 40 letters, we got 103 of them.
Whoa!
So I'm really glad that there was a lot of involvement, but I was super busy with that.
Well, yeah,
and
sounds
these kids are in different grades, these kids are different ages, and so, like, you know, they don't necessarily have that much in common, but try and keeping to the spirit of the original letter while making it in a language that the kids here can understand. And, of course, it goes without saying that if the kids here respond, that I'll have to do the same thing in reverse to send them back over to the States. So, you know, It's not as, like, fleshing out my scenes, having fun with my characters and all that I'd really like to do, but I can't deny it is certainly using my writting brain.
It certainly is. Well, you'll get to that eventually, surely.
It's a fun brain test. It's a fun brain test for me, obviously, because, you know, trying to find the right words, I'm not too bad at it, and I happen to know a decent amount of ways to say the same thing, which is a good thing I do in English. But, you know, it's really tedious at times, too.
Well, like, good thing about writing through this, like, you get to know all the different ways to say one thing, you know? So it all kind of links up together, so.
It does. It does. As I said, that's why I'm counting it as writing.
There's a real poetry to all this, isn't it, there?
Yes, it comes full circle and almost rhymes.
It certainly does. There's a real cantata? I don't know.
That's musical. That's not poetry.
I don't know. We just need to drop this beat. That's also music.
I'm aware of what you're trying to do, so let's just preempt this. We have a co-host that we were telling you about earlier.
Yes. All right, so we've got a fellow coworker of mine here from the very famous coffee shop that I work at, that we won't say the name because, I don't know, legal reasons.
Business reasons? I guess, I don't know.
All right, so anyway, welcome, Miss Sydney Chapin.
Hi, I'm Sydney Chapin, and I'm a self-proclaimed poet.
Yes, welcome to the Writ. Thank you for providing your expertise
Indeed.
On a realm we don't have that much experience with.
Yeah, so you're a poet and such. So yeah, we got some poet questions for you. Okay, so my first question, we got a list of questions here. My first question, so when David and I write our prose stories, we often outline specific plot elements, like where we'll start and where we'll end, and scattered cool ideas for scenes. How does writing poetry differ from this?
So, to start writing a poem, I usually spend some time thinking about the prompt that I've given myself or got from the internet, quite frankly.
Might as well, yeah.
And I think of some key descriptive words that are related or phrases that I could use that are like, I guess, that speak to me. And then once I have an idea for a verse or two, I can usually go from there.
Okay.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. Well, what's your question, David? You have your first one, I mean.
All right, well, my first question for you, Sydney, is that obviously some poems are incredibly long.
The Divine Comedy.
For an example, you could look at the work of Dante Alighieri or, you know, Homer's famous tales. I still can't get over how those are told by rote, by the way. But how long is too long? Does that depend on what style you're shooting for with that particular poem, or what determines that for you?
I personally am not a huge fan of poems that are more than 5 pages. I do like some of Homer's work, but usually the long poems get too wordy and loose. I guess some of the interpretation, the mystery, the meditation, it's a key factor in poetry, I think.
Oh, that makes sense.
I think definitely, like, sonnets typically need to be longer than the free verse, but some of the free verse, like slam, are long. And the majority of, like, my poems, personally, are under 50 verses, but I've seen some really good longer poems.
Yeah, I imagine more than that would be kind of a bear, reading it all.
Right. So, my next question, I guess, is, what do you feel is the best mood for you to be in when writing poetry? What emotion gets the best results from you?
Yeah, so I feel that my best poetry comes from moments of strong emotion, whether I'm, like, frustrated or anxious or depressed.
Ah, that makes sense.
But also when I've had really good days that I want to record in the form of a poem. Usually on the days where I'm just feeling okay, I don't write too much at all, which is kind of unfortunate because most days I don't really have a strong enough emotion to write like a good piece, I feel.
I mean, those emotions inspire you, right? Whereas just feeling blasé.
Exactly. Mediocrity is often mediocrity, wouldn't you say, Dave?
Mediocrity is not fun. I mean, you look at soap operas, and it's amusing, but it's so
it's
regular.
all heavy emotions.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
All right, so my next question is a little less about the process, but more about the after effects. What are the best reasons for our audience, our listeners, to try writing more poetry? as just one sample, maybe it could branch them into other kinds of writing?
Yeah. Poetry is a writing form that's really unique for everybody, I think. So some people really live for the metaphors or like how to describe things.
I do like metaphors.
You like metaphors almost as much as I like... That's a simile, I'm sorry.
Similes.
Crazies. Some do a lot of stuff with the flowy descriptive words or the rhymes and the syllable counts. And a lot of times it's usually vastly different than someone's style when they're writing fiction. So my fiction is a lot different than my poetry. It's typically shorter, obviously, and it's definitely not for everybody, but I would definitely recommend to at least try and expand your style on that.
So I've never really gotten poetry that doesn't rhyme. Like, I know there's a reasoning behind how it's defined, but I've never really quite gotten it. I'm just a muggle at this kind of stuff. So, do your poems rhyme? And if not, what makes them poems? Like, basically, how do you define poetry?
It sounds super artsy and lame, but I don't really think there's like a set. I feel like there are a lot of ways to write poetry that aren't in the words itself.
I mean, that does sound kind of lame, but, I mean, it's good on this show, right?
I have seen the work of E.E. Cummings. We've done a couple of songs that were based on poems of his. Look him up, listeners, if you've never seen him before.
Right. I'll get right on that.
His poems would display, intentionally unaligned or use other, like, formatting tricks. It's almost like if Picasso wrote poetry, kind of, in my head, but that doesn't really change its function. But are there any, like, non-standard ways to write poetry? Have you tried any of these methods, or do you just always write or type it in a linear setting?
I have a good amount of, like, visually appealing poetry that works on paper, really, only, that I do with italics, brackets, text size, page spacing.
Okay.
It doesn't do well when it's spoken, I'd assume. I haven't actually performed it, but I guess there are just, like, some poems that are, like, meant to be read and some that are meant to be spoken.
Right. That is interesting, to have some poems, you can only really get what it means through reading it or through listening to it. Like, David, can you get what this poem means?
I can't tell. I only have text.
Use your imagination, David.
Imagination.
Alright. Well, no, I guess it makes sense that, like sometimes, poems, sort of like how they're not performed well and spoken, they're not supposed to. Like, there's like plays sometimes that are like, that actually aren't meant to be performed. So I guess that's kind of like that. Okay, cool. My next question, I guess, is, have you any plans to publish a book of poetry?
I'd like to publish a book. I have a lot of anxiety about doing that, just because it's really final once it's published, and then I can't change it, and it's out there. I'm incredibly indecisive, and I've scrapped the whole thing multiple times, and so it's been in process for about 4 years. And then my best poetry is written in about 20 minutes or less. Anything that takes me longer, I feel like I kind of lose the feeling, and it doesn't feel genuine. So the majority of my writing takes place in, like, one session, so I could go back weeks later and edit it, but the bulk of it has already been completed. It's just, like, minor touch-ups. Reading is really hard for me, but I've gotten a lot better and, like, more comfortable with it over the years. I've made an effort to do that. So,
if the poems are done already, like, you've already written them, does there have to follow a certain order? Okay, I understand flow. I mean, okay, I say I understand it, but I suppose for every poet, it's different. It does depend on your inspiration, right?
I mean, I'm no poet, but if I had a collection of poems, I would probably sort them between happy and sad, and not, like, have one big section of happy and sad, but, like, here's some happy ones, here's some sad ones. Like, if I had the half of the book be sad and half of the book be happy, man, that'd be a mess. I mean, like, if it was half and half, I mean, that means one half of the book, that'd be a real downward roller coaster. Just one big drop.
Well, I mean, come on, you take it up, you take it all the way down, then you take it back to the station.
Which is hopefully up.
I suppose it depends on what you consider happy and sad, too, but...
Kind of mess people up real bad. You can do 3 happy, 2 sad. Whoa.
Oh my gosh! Well, like, it depends on how many sad poems you have. Can you keep that ratio and get through all of your sad poems?
I guess the real issue, Sydney, is that do you have like an overabundance of sad poems?
There's definitely that.
I guess that's one of the issues, isn't it?
But that's why you can't find a flow then. Okay, so like, I mean, it's easy for me to say this, but I think the simple answer is you need to write more happy poems, Sydney. Come on.
Oh, don't tell her how to write.
I'm not telling her how. I'm just telling her what she should write.
I guess I said don't tell her how to write. We have a whole podcast literally about not telling people how to write. Like, this is what this whole thing is about.
We're defeating our own purpose here.
I'm choking on my own. I don't even know what it is. You have some experience with, maybe not poetry, but like lyrics, right, David? So what do you do? Like in terms of how long your sessions take when you write your lyrics?
Personally, when I do it, it's largely like all the same attempt, but maybe I'll review it later and alter a word here or there if I like it better. I tend to write not so much poems as much as I consider them song lyrics. Like, I always compose them with
He's a music
melody
major, you see. Like, he does English more as writing more as a hobby, so. But it's a really big one, so.
I mean, if music didn't exist, I would be an English major.
Right,
but,
of course. As for any very amateurish poetry tips from a non-poet like myself, I'd assume that, like, if you're writing really emotional poetry, you need to get it down quickly, like when you're feeling that emotion, to make it genuine.
Yeah, I think if you wait too long, it almost gets unwieldy. I think
it makes the emotions too artificial too. You're trying to
makes you wonder how Homer got through all of the Iliad and then the Odyssey.
They was spoken. Those were orally told for a while.
Yeah,
he was also probably drunk on all the wine, the fine Greek wine.
Would not surprise at all.
Good old Bacchus and Dionysus, the Roman and Greek versions of the same person, the same god.
Exactly.
Anyways,
so basically, once you're once you decided, okay, I'm done with this, it's basically over. That's something about poetry, though. With novels, obviously, it takes a set time. You have theoretically the beginning, middle, and end, but when you're done, and it might take some edits, but theoretically it won't change that radically.
Right.
With poems, you could scrap the thing entirely, you could keep editing it, you could, rewrite the thing. This is kind of a thing that's relevant to me. When my experience, there's this composer by the name of Eric Whitaker, and he always does some really intriguing stuff for chorus groups. Right. And there was one song that he did that he wanted to use a poem by Robert Frost.
Oh, yes.
And, not a bad idea, but apparently at that time, the estate, there was some complication, he couldn't use it. So he asked a friend of his, a guy who does lyrics and poetry and stuff, and he asked him to do a poem with literally the same meter and a similar subject matter.
Well,
to do this song.
That's
because he had already composed the song based on the poem that they told him he couldn't use. And so he's like, okay, I need you to do this, and I need you to do it like exactly the same way.
Limitations can sometimes bring the best out of creativity, though.
And you know what the poet, the lyricist then said? He's like, that's the fastest poem I've ever written.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Hey, if you can make a working out of it, right? Nice work if you can get it.
You've probably made more money with your career than I have, so good. So that's nice.
Well, mine hasn't become a career, so I have no right to say.
That's true. You're still dead last.
But I am still better than our listeners, apparently, somehow. Because A equals B equals C.
This is an inside joke, Sydney, that we had early in the episode that you have not heard. So I'll be sure to send you the completed version of this so you can see all of its nonsense.
Yeah, please make sure that she gets to witness the full experience.
We were talking about different. I don't even remember what it was.
No, we were talking about the transitive property.
We're not math people, so why are we talking about
this? I referenced it as the commutative property, but the property that I was referencing was A if A equals B and B equals C, then A also equals C, such that, like, if we're better than you and you're better than us, then you must be better than them, which doesn't work when it's an equals
by the way,
equation
Sydney,
as opposed to a greater than, less than phenomenon.
One of the catchphrases of our podcast is that we may not be perfect, but we know we are better than you. So that's the context of that one.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, explanation.
It actually started off originally with, like, at the beginning of the first episode, I was like, the podcast where two losers named Matt seem to think we're better writers than you. Point is, math sucks.
I haven't taken a math class since I was in high school. It's been a while.
Does this have anything to do with poems anymore? Or, like, podcasts?
Well, I mean, you could do a poem about physics. It probably would be no fun, but...
A math podcast sounds like the most boring piece of nonsense that this, like, could ever...
Oh, come on. Surely there's some crazy nerd out there who'd like to do it. I mean, with today's environment, you can have a podcast about anything. There's probably a podcast about Barbie, for all I know.
Yes, but can there be a good podcast about anything? It's really the...
Okay, well, the question is, how passionate is their fandom, and how often do the audience get engaged?
Yeah, mathletes unite.
Because if it's something that if that's something that constantly renews,
right,
then you have an easier way to build a following and to keep it. You know, with math, I don't think there have been major theorems that have been, proposed in the last few years, such that, like, they always have, we needed to talk about this because it happened last month.
This just in, someone got slightly further along on pi. How many digits is that we're at now?
Oh, boy.
Okay.
Because apparently we're so good at writting that we talk about other crap that we don't know, too.
The Writ Twitch. West two twits talk about writting. It's one of our other catchphrases. Sydney's just dead silent here. I'm assuming she's just like, what the hell have I got myself into?
I think she's just letting us play and have our fun, which I appreciate very much, that our co-host can come in and catch the dynamic so easily.
Hopefully you're having a good time, Sydney. We always have fun doing this, so...
Never say we don't have fun, even if it gets a little out of hand.
That's the best fun.
It is true. Especially when you're editing it, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I love editing it, but it's all over the place.
No. How many freaking hours does it take to edit the thing when you have to take out all the extra pauses and talking over each other and...
Also, I procrastinate like crazy, so if you add that, it takes like weeks.
Yeah, that doesn't help. I mean, there's a reason we had that long hiatus that had nothing to do with pregnancy.
There's so many running jokes that Sydney is not aware of here. So, okay, so for context, we did 2 episodes at the very beginning, then we took a long break because we weren't sure exactly how we're gonna do this. Get this thing going, so it ended up being exactly 9 months by pure coincidence. So we had a joke in the 3rd episode. It's like the show where we have a break that lasts 9 mons, and yet somehow pregnancy is not involved.
That has nothing to do with pregnancy. Boy!
If you want to listen to this, you should go to theritwit.listen.com. Cheap plug, another one of our running jokes.
Okay, anyways, sorry, trying to get back on track here.
Let's see, this sounds like this interview, I'm assuming it went pretty well. I mean, I'll find out through editing, but...
Exactly, yeah, I'm not sure how it goes.
Thank you very much for coming aboard, Sydney, and letting you talk, and then letting us talk.
Letting you talk.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. For an English major and a published author, your grammar is atrocious, sir.
Wait, what? I didn't even hear what I said.
Thank you for joining us and letting you talk.
I mean, you have to let yourself talk. There's, a prison of it that, you have to unleash in order to get yourself prepared for...
Oh, my God.
Like the thing about talking in front of... Okay,
yeah,
fine.
Public speaking, which is why we're recording as opposed to doing a live show, right?
I have really bad anxiety about reading in front of people, so there's definitely that.
Yeah, I get that. I really should be more professional with editing all this. It make us not be so anxious about possibly performing the Writ in public, but I leave most of this in because I think it's hilarious, though. So, anyway, I mean, if we get any hate mail for this weird episode and how he and I started doing our usual blathering while you just sat there laughing. Oh man, I'll be sure to filter it out, I guess.
I mean, if we get any hate mail to our website, we'll of course, filter it out, but if somebody wants to send comments to us, that works too.
Of course.
Maybe you want to hire her for a poetry reading to write your AP Lit poem. Please do, by the way.
We get so much hate mail. You know how you said earlier that we get no mail? That's because I edited it all out. To shield yourself from all the criticism.
Yeah,
okay.
So if you want to download the Writ, we are on iTunes, of course. You can also do it through the website as well. Give us a like and review. Tell all your friends about it. If you have any helpful tips for the new people that we can throw into our episode, please send us an email. You can use your own email service, or you can go to the contact page on the website. The email address is mattd. Please make sure there are 2 T's in that. At MatthewDonaldCreator.com. In the description, we're not going to spell it here because you've heard it 1,000 times before already anyway. Also, official social media accounts.
Of course.
I don't particularly have ones worth following, but I'm sure Donald does.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, I do. You can follow me on Facebook at Matthew Donald Creator, or on Twitter or Instagram at MatthewDonald64. Why 64? And this is a running joke, Sydney, that we have every time. Because as professional and experienced I am with the art of writing, I am completely clueless when it comes to social media. Every time I try to make an account, I have to make a new password, make a new email address, remake an email address, retake my profile picture because it was dumb or inappropriate or something, accidentally hack the Pentagon's network, the typical stuff, right? After 64 attempts, I finally got my Twitter account up and running after, some brief interrogations with Twitter's legal team, the FBI, and, the Green Lantern Corps.
Why did the Corps get involved? Oh my god.
I just really messed some stuff up. Anyways. So, yep, that was the show.
So, yeah.
Anyways, alright, well, thank you very much.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. I had a lot of fun.
No problem. Thank you for sharing with us, though. We really do appreciate it. Well, anyways, listeners, thanks for spending some time with us about poetry today. Thank you very much, Sydney Chapin, for coming in and sharing your expertise. Very good pleasure having you here.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much.
But thanks for listening, listeners. Until next time, get out there, write some poetry. Try some rhymes. Try some that don't rhyme. Try writing them linearly. Try writing them all over the place. Who knows? It's up to you.
All right, I've got a haiku.
Here we go. What's your haiku?
Then one day I saw a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He then ate me up. Good night, listeners, and good luck.
Thanks very much, listeners, for spending some time with us. For Sydney Chapin, I'm Matt David.
I'm Matt Donald, and that was Sydney Chapin,
Keep
who's not
writing
recording now, so she can't say anything about it, so that's okay. All right.
Until next time, where us 2 twits talk about writting.
Yep.
We'll keep going at the Writ Wit.
Yep. Okay,
keep on writing, listeners. Bye-bye.
The Writ Wit.